In our today's video, we will be discussing about basics of Excel, how things work in Excel, what is a workbook, what is a worksheet, what is a ribbon, what are different tabs in Excel. We will be discussing all that in our today's session. First of all, let's open Excel for that. The version that I'm using is 2021. And over here on the top, we have good morning, and here we have a blank workbook. So if you want to open a blank workbook, you can click on blank workbook. Also, we have a home button. We have a new button which will allow us to open a new blank workbook. And we also have an open option which allows us to open a previously created Excel workbook or worksheets. Okay. Now let's open a blank workbook over here. Once you click on a blank workbook, this is how the interface of Excel blank workbook looks like, or Excel workbook looks like. Now because we don't have any data, that's why these cells are empty. On the top, we have a ribbon. In ribbon, we have different tabs. We have file, we have home. We have insert, which allows us to insert different things, for example slicers, charts, or if you want to add shapes and pictures, we can use insert. The page layout allows us to lay out our page. Formulas have different formulas, so from here you can access different formulas, some recently used formulas, some financial formulas. We have logical formulas, text, date and time, lookup, reference, and we also have math and trigonometric formulas. If you go to more functions, we have statistical, engineering, cube, information, compatibility, and web-based formulas. So this is the formula tab. Next, we have data tab. Data tab allows us to create or obtain new files and folders. So if you want to open a new folder over here, like if you have a folder which has different Excel workbook or worksheets and you want to open it here, in that case, you can use get data. And we have different options, for example, folder, Excel workbook, CSV file, XML, JSON data, or even you can get a data from a PDF as well. Similarly, if you want to get a data from a website which is in a tabular format, then you can use from web as well. Also on the right, you will see Flashfill, remove duplicates, data validations, and different options that we will be going through in this whole course. Then we have review option, view option. We also have developer option. The developer option might not be enabled in your case. For that, you need to go on files, you need to go on options. In options, you will find customize ribbon and make sure you click on the developer button, which is on the right hand side. So it will be disabled for you. Once you click on enable and click on OK, it will be enabled for you. The developer button allows you to create a VBA, Visual Basic Code. You can create macros or you can record macros over here as well. Then we have the help section. So this was the ribbon. This was the ribbon in Excel. Coming back to home page. Now the next thing that is here is a formula bar. So here we have a formula bar. In a formula bar, you can write formulas. So if you want to write any kind of formula, suppose if I write any value 56 and 67 over here, and if you want to give a formula to this cell, which would be a sum of these two cells, then you can write your formula directly in the formula bar as well, or you can write the formula in the cell as well. That choice is completely up to you. But this area is known as formula bar. Next is our cell grid. So in this grid, if I'm clicking on any of the cell, you can see a number over here is changing, a value over here is changing. Here right now it's D4, which tells us that D is the name of the column and 4th is the number of row. If I move over here, it tells us L11, which tells us L is the name of the column and 11 is the number of row. So this is our cell grid. At the bottom, we have options to create multiple sheets over here. So this whole thing is an Excel workbook. This whole interface is of an Excel workbook, and then you can create multiple sheets as per your convenience. If you want to delete them, you can delete them as well. If you want to rename them, you can rename them as well. If you want to create a copy of a sheet, you can do that too. You want to protect the sheet that no one, if you share the sheet, no one will be able to make any changes to it. You can protect the sheet as well. So this is how you can create new sheets. On the right hand side, suppose if I write anything in these cells and if I select these cells, so on the right hand side, you'll find the average, you'll find the count, and you will find the sum of these values. So these are just for a quick look. So if you want to quickly look at the values, let it be count, sum, or average or anything, then you can just click over here. Now let's talk about filling the values inside it. To create a table or to write any data inside it, we usually, when we create a table, this is how we do it. Suppose if I want to create a table based on my expenses, the first thing that I would mention is date. Like on which day I have made any expense. What is the category of the expense? What is the subcategory of that expense? And you can give a hyphen instead of an underscore. Subcategory. And how much amount you have paid for it, and what was your payment mode, so that we have a track of payment mode as well, like if you're using UPI mode or cash mode or credit card mode. So payment mode would be our last thing. Okay, so as you can see over here, that subcategory, it's not visible properly. All you need to do is just go at the end of the column and double click over here, and now you can see subcategory is completely visible. Okay, so just double click over here and it will adjust the column size according to your data. Now if I go to date, you need to write date in this format. Like for example, let's say today's date is 22 and I want to create this whole sheet for my December expenses. So let's do one thing. I'll just use the upper grid like this and till W, let's say. And on the top, we have merge in center, which allows us to merge all these cells. Now we can write anything inside it. For example, December expenses. Okay, select all. You can increase this font size like this, and you can fill the color for the text. So suppose if you want to pick something light, you can use something light. You can also fill the color inside the cell. So if I choose the cell, here we have the option to fill the color. So suppose this is the color that I want to choose. This is how I will choose it. Okay. So payment mode is also over here. Now you can start writing your date. So let's say on 1st December, I made my first payment. The category would be, let's say I paid a bill, which was a phone bill, and the amount was 1600, and the payment mode was UPI. Okay. Similarly, if you want to add another date, let's say on 3rd of December, you ordered food from Zomato. The cost was 230 and the payment mode was, let's say, UPI again, or you can write cash as well, whatever your payment mode was. Okay. So this is how you can create data over here. You can write data over here. Now it doesn't look like it is in a tabular format. The date, category, subcategory, the values over here, they all look very similar. If you want to change its format, let's first also increase the size. So I'll also increase the size for you as well. Okay. Now it doesn't looks like it's in a tabular format. To make it a table, to create a table over here, all you need to do is select any cell over here which contains any value and press on Control T. Control T gives you a shortcut to create a table. Also mention that my table has headers. If you do not enable it, see, it will give you column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5. Instead of this, what you need to do is Control T, but make sure you enable this option that my table has headers. Now your column names would be date, category, subcategory, amount, or payment mode. So Control T is a shortcut, but if you want to insert a table, there is another way as well. So I'll just go for Control Z again. Insert, and you can see there's a table option over here. And again, you can create a similar table. So shortcut is Control T, else you can go in insert, and here also we have a table option. Don't go for a pivot table. We will be learning about pivot tables more ahead in the session. As of now, we just need to create tables. So this is how we create a table. You can add more values to it as well. So suppose if I write 04 12 2023, and I made a little mistake. Okay. And the category would be, let's say, food again, but in a restaurant. And the amount that I paid was 340 and the payment was from a card. Okay. So this is how you can categorize your data like this. And this is how your table would look like. Now you will notice something over here, that whenever I'm writing a text, it's on the left hand side of a cell. Whenever I'm writing a number, it's on the right hand side of a cell. Also, if I increase the cell width of date, And let me just increase the cell width. The date also occurs on the right hand side. The amount also occurs on the right hand side, while at the same time the text occurs on the left hand side of a cell. So suppose if by mistake I have written 30,000 for some reason. Let's say I bought anything which cost 30,000. Okay, if I put a comma, that's fine. But if I have written a hyphen or anything else, it would consider it as a text, not as a number. So make sure that whenever you are writing a number, no symbol should be there. Otherwise, it won't consider it as a number but as a text. So these are just some basic things about Excel. In our today's session, we will be discussing about what is autofill, what is flashfill, and what is text to columns. Very useful when you're working with data. When you want to do a repeated task, you can use flashfill. When you want to autofill the columns, you can use the autofill. And if you want to convert a text into a column, in that case, you can use text to column options. Let's see how these functions work over here. First of all, let's talk about autofill. Suppose if I have written 1 and in all the cells I want 1 to be written, I'll just drag it simply like this without clicking anything, just drag it. Okay, let's do it once again. Go towards the end of the cell, click on this button and drag it, and here we have 1 in each row. Now if I press Control and then if I drag it, in that case you can see it is filling the values automatically. This is called autofill. So here we have values that are filled automatically. If you want to fill more of them, you can just again click on Control, drag it over, and you can go up to 19 and so on. This is what autofill is, which allows you to fill your values automatically. Similarly, suppose if you have some names written, for example, I'm just writing some names. So I have written some names over here, and now if in a new column you are asked to obtain the surnames, in that case what you can do is you can just write Geller, the first name, and as soon as you write B for the next one, it will detect the pattern automatically for you and fill the values. As soon as you will press enter, all the values will be filled for you automatically. Guys, this is called Flashfill. Flashfill allow Excel to detect pattern that you're writing in a new column, and based on that pattern it will fill rest of the values for you. These values could be anything. These could be the names as well. So suppose if I write Monica over here, and again if I write P, it will give all the names over here. So as soon as I press enter again, now I have names in a different columns and surnames in the different column. If you want to create a column for that as well, like if you want to give it a column name as well, you can give it a column name as well. So this is how Flashfill works. It just not works on texts only. Suppose if you have numbers written or if you have written any data and in between you have hash and 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, some values are written and we have hash 2, 3, 4, 5. We have some values hash 2, 2, 3, 3. Some values again hash 8, 8, 9, 9. And I'm just writing 4 to 5 values for this. Okay. So suppose if here, if I start writing hash 1, 2, 3, 4, here if I start writing hash, you can see it also detects the numbers as well. It also detects the symbol as well. It will just recognize the pattern that you are writing in a new column and it will fill the whole format for you in the new column. So this is how it works. Again, if I press enter and all the data is over here in front of you. So this is how again Flashfill works. Moving ahead, let's talk about text to columns. How does text to column works? For example, if I have the very same example, let's remove this one. And if I have the very same example, I have these values, right? Okay. I want to create a name in one column. I want to create surname in another column. I want names in one column. So I want surnames in another column. All I need to do is I need to go on data tab. In data tab, you will find text to columns. Just click on text to columns. And here we have two options. One is delimited, one is fixed in length. So if you want to extract fixed length, you can click on fixed length. And if you want to use a delimiter, this delimiter could be anything. It could be a space, it could be a hash, it could be a @ symbol, it could be a hyphen, underscore, or anything. So here in our case, it's a space. Let's click on next. It also gives us the option that, oh, what is the delimiter for you? For in our case, it's a space. And as soon as I have clicked on space, see, when I don't click on space, there is, in the data preview, there is nothing happening. But as soon as I click on space, you can see the names are separated and the surnames are separated in another column. And as soon as I click on next, it's not a date, it's general value. So let's click on finish, and we have names in one column and surnames in another. This is how text to column works. It also works with a fixed length as well. So suppose you have been given some phone numbers and you want to extract last 4 digits of each value. In that case, what you can do, again, you can choose the same text to columns option. Now this time we do not have a delimiter over here, but we know that we need to extract the last 4 values. We can use fixed width over here, and we can click on next button. Now you can see over here the guidelines are given that if you want to create a break line, you just need to click at the desired position. So 1, 2, 3 and 4 over here. I'll just click and I'll be getting 4 numbers from each row. As soon as I click on next, and then this would be again a general, and click on finish, and we are done. So last 4 digits are over here. You can do it with the help of Flashfill as well, or you can do it with the help of text to columns as well. Both the functions will work for you. If the Flashfill doesn't work for you properly, then you can use text to column. But text to column has one limitation in case of width. Suppose, let's say some numbers has lesser values. Okay, so over here we have values like this. Okay, I'll just remove this one. Okay, now from these given values, I want to again extract last 4 digits. Okay, and let's go for text to columns, and we'll go for a fixed width. We'll click on next. I want to extract last 4 digits. So now you can see last 4 cannot be extracted from here. Here in the first row we have 4 digits, in the next row we have 3, in one of the rows we also have 2 digits. So it has limitations as well, but how to fix that limitation, we'll be discussing about that in the upcoming sessions, where we will be discussing about functions that are there in Excel when we'll be learning about functions. Previous session we have discussed about Flashfill, Autofill and text to columns. In our today's session we will be discussing about data validation in Excel. If you want to become a successful data analyst and if you want to learn data analytics live from our industry experts, WsCube Tech got you covered. We bring you a complete course on data analytics where we will be starting our journey with the Excel. Moving ahead, we'll be talking about the databases where we'll be learning MySQL. And then for visualization, we'll be learning about Power BI and Tableau. Not just that, if you want to stand out in the market, we will also be teaching you Python programming along with the data science libraries. If you want to know more about this course, then you can find the attached brochure in our description, or you can also fill the form provided in our description. Now let's get started, guys. So data validation, how does data validation work? What are the uses and advantages of data validation? Let's understand that first. Now suppose you're working in a company and you want to create a sheet for yourself, or even if you want to create it for some of your colleagues. If you want the data to be entered over there, but you want to put some restrictions so that there is a less chances of making an error. For example, if you're creating this data for just January month or December month, in our case, okay, or if you want the value should be under certain range, or if you want the length of the text should be between certain words or certain characters, if you want that there should be only restricted payment modes over here, for example UPI, cash or card, in that condition we can use data validation, so there are less chances of making an error, and whenever the person makes any error, it will show an error message over here. Wherever the person writes any wrong data, it shows an error message. How does it work? Let's understand that. Now, suppose let's first talk about the category, which is a text column. Let's click on this. As soon as I click on this, so all you need to do to select this column is you need to hover over it and you will find an arrow. As soon as the arrow appears, click on it. As soon as you click on it, on the top in the data tab itself, you will be finding data validation. Click on data validation. Here we have a text length. Now you can decide a text length. Suppose if it is a category, I don't want category to be a whole paragraph or a sentence as well. It should be just 1 or 2 word thing. So I want its minimum length to be 2 so that no one use in abbreviations, and the maximum length should not exceed 25. Now let's click on OK. Okay. Now suppose if I try to write something in this column, so if I write to say went for shopping for a party of a friend. Okay, I hope now the length of the text is more than 25. Now as soon as I press enter, it would generate an error for me that this value doesn't match the data validation restriction defined for this cell. That means we have defined certain restrictions for this cell and the value that we are writing does not match it. So let's just remove it. Let's click on retry and I'll just write shopping, and as soon as I press enter it would allow me to write it. Similarly, let's come to date part. Now because these are the expenses of December itself, I'll just hover over here, and as soon as the arrow appears I'll click on it. We'll go to data validation again. Now here we need to click on date. Now you can define the date over here, that because these expenses are from December only, so we can write that the start date should be 01/12/2023 and the end date should be 31/12/2023. Okay, and let's click on OK. Now let's try to write any value which is from November. So if I write 05, okay, and 11 and 2023. As soon as I press enter, again the same error appears for us. Let's try to write a value which is from December itself but of 2024. So 04 or 05, 12 and 2025. If I press enter, again the same error appears which says that it does not match the restrictions that we have defined for these cells. Okay, so this is how data validation for a date could work. For amount, you can pass the amount as well. So suppose if you want to define that it should be a whole number or a decimal number, it could be a decimal number as well. It could be between, or it should be greater than or equal to. Okay, so I just want this expenses sheet to be of those amounts which are more than 5 rupees. Okay, so anything that I have bought which is under the range of 5 rupees, I won't be counting that as an expense. Okay, so minimum value is 5. Okay, and now if let's say I bought a toffee of 2 rupees and if I press enter, it won't allow me to write it. Okay, similarly if I write anything else, let's say if I have written 200 or if I have written 500, it would allow me to write it. Okay, lastly we have payment mode section over here. Now for the payment mode, if you know that only 3 to 4 values are there which could come in this category, for example UPI, cash, card or a credit card as well. Okay, so you can use data validation restriction for this and you can create a list for it. For example, if I click on it, go to data validation, here in any value I will be choosing a list over here. This list could contain UPI, cash, card, or let's say I'm also using a credit card, so CC. Okay, now if you click on this drop down, you can see some values are given over here, and even for a new cell as well. So suppose if I click on a new cell, it tells me that here are the 4 options that you can fill over here. Let's say this is from a card. Okay, and if I try to write anything else except for this, for let's say I took a money from a friend, so I'll just write borrowed money. Okay, let's press enter and it won't allow us to write it. So instead of this, we'll just go for card. Previous session we have discussed about text validation or data validation. In our today's session, we will be discussing about conditional formatting. That what is conditional formatting? So guys, when you want to format your data based on conditions, that is called as conditional formatting, and you will find it on the home tab. On the home tab, you will find plenty of things which you can use to edit your data. Suppose if you want to change the alignment of your data, you want to make changes in the font size and everything, then you can use this tab. Also on the styles, you will be finding conditional formatting. So how to do conditional formatting? Let's understand that. First of all, let's go to amount over here. If I choose amount column, if I go to conditional formatting, if I want to highlight cells, so here are different options that are provided. You want to highlight cells that is greater than certain value, that is less than certain value, that lies between a certain value, that is equal to certain value, or that is a duplicate value, then you can highlight it as well. We have top to bottom rules, which allows us to give us the top 10 items, top 10%, bottom 10 items, bottom 10%, and you can change the values according to your choices as well. We also have data bars. So if you want to create a bar on your data, then we can use data bars. We also have color scales, icon sets, and many more things. So first of all, let's talk about highlight cell rules. So suppose I want to highlight all my expenses which are greater than 1000 rupees. In that case, I'll go to greater than, and also I'll mention over here that all the expenses that are greater than 1000 would be highlighted. What color do you want to fill in it? You can provide that too. You can provide a yellow color, you can provide a green color, light red fill is there, and a green color is also over here. So whatever color you want to provide, you can provide a color to that as well. Suppose this is green color. So all the expenses which are greater than 1000 are highlighted. Similarly, you can do the same for text as well. That if you click on text, again we have conditional formatting options. We want to highlight the text that contains something. Let's say the text that contains double O. Okay, the food contains double O, so food would be here. And if I press on enter, all the things, all the categories that contains food will be highlighted. Now suppose next we have date over here. And for date, we also have a few more options. For example, a date occurring in this week, yesterday, today, tomorrow. All these things you can get from here. You can highlight all these values which are provided over here. Or we can, let's go again and go to conditional formatting. We have top to bottom rules, top 10 items, like top 10 dates. If I choose top 10 dates, the dates from today, it will be choosing the date from today. Let's click on OK. And these would be our top 10 dates. Okay, whose expenses has been recorded. Okay, and let's come back. I'll just press Ctrl Z to undo this. Again, in conditional formatting, we'll go to top to bottom rules. Now if you want to go in bottom 10 items, bottom 10%, you can choose that as well. Okay, for the amount, if you want to highlight all the values which are below average, you can see we have below average data as well. So for below average, whatever color you want to fill, you can fill that color, and it should be, let's say, you can customize your own format as well. So let's go for yellow. And okay, I guess many values are below average, so I'll just cancel this, but I just wanted to show it to you all. Similarly, again, if we choose conditional formatting, then if I want to create a data bar over this particular column, we can create data bars as well. Now the biggest bar would be on the highest value, and the other bars would be in respect to that values. So suppose this one is 16,000, in respect to 16,000, the height of the other bars will be calculated. Okay, so you can create data bars as well, and not just on tables. Suppose if you even have a range as well. Suppose this is a range. Okay, so this is a range. If you want to choose a column, we choose the column like this. If we want to choose a range, we select it like this. Okay, or we have a shortcut as well. Just press on Control and down arrow to move around. Control Shift down will select everything for you. And as soon as you click on Control Shift down, again go to conditional formatting, data bars, and you can choose data bars as well. Now you can see the biggest bar is on 100, and with respect to 100, the height of other bars are decided. This is how data bars work. Similarly, you can choose color scales as well. So we have color scales here. So we can choose color scales as well, which shows us that lower the value, darker it is in red color, higher the value, darker it is in green color. So the color scale goes from red to green, where the darker the red it is, the lower the value. Darker the green it is, then it will be the higher value. And for the neutral values, we have yellows over here. So this is how color scales work. And similarly, you can add icons to them as well. So if I press Ctrl Z again, if I go to conditional formatting, we have some icon sets. So we can create some icon sets as well. So as you can see, the lower the values, the red icon is there. For the neutral values like 67, 56, 68, these have yellow color icons, and higher values like 77, 90, 100, they have green icons in front of them. So this is how conditional formatting works, guys. You can format it based on highlighting colors, based on if you want to create data bars, based on if you want to create color scales, or even if you want to provide icon sets based on top value, bottom value, or whatever you like. For that, we use conditional formatting. I hope after this session it is clear what conditional formatting is. And with the help of this, in our upcoming session, we will be discussing about how we can sort based on conditional formatted data, how we can sort the data based on these colors. So stay connected, guys, and I'll see you in the next session.